Every dispute holds two different sides. Every objective lens demands honesty. Knowing your fundamental rights, securing absolute justice.
Let me see your papers.
Excuse me. I work here.
I don't care. Show me your proof of citizenship.
Officer, I'm an American. I was born in Salt Lake, Utah. This is harassment.
Sheriff David Oliver had walked into that Salt Lake City pharmacy on a scorching July afternoon in 2023 with one purpose: to verify an anonymous tip about a suspicious black woman possibly working under false identity. In his mind, demanding citizenship papers was routine, compliance was expected. He had made dozens of stops like this, targeting people based on nothing more than how they looked, never questioned, never challenged. But when he demanded papers from the woman behind that counter, he made a catastrophic miscalculation. Dr. Esther Marie Richmond was not just a pharmacist. She was a fifth-generation Utahn whose family had helped build the Transcontinental Railroad through the state in 1869. She held a Doctor of Pharmacy degree from the University of Utah and a Juris Doctor from Georgetown University Law Center. She had clerked for a federal judge. She knew constitutional law better than Sheriff Oliver ever would. And when she refused his unlawful demand, citing the Fourth Amendment and her right to be free from unreasonable seizures, Oliver made a series of decisions that would cost Salt Lake County $12.9 million. If you are ready to see institutional racism taken down, like this video and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. And if this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button right now because you won't want to miss tomorrow's story of cops messing with the wrong people and finding out. Let's continue. Sheriff David Oliver had operated with impunity for 9 years. Salt Lake County Sheriff's Office, a career built on what his supervisors called proactive policing, aggressive street enforcement, stops based on hunches rather than evidence, a willingness to demand identification from anyone he deemed suspicious. 8 civilian complaints sat in his file, each one alleging racial profiling, each one claiming constitutional violations. None had resulted in meaningful discipline. The call came in at 2:34 in the afternoon. Anonymous complaint, Riverside Pharmacy, Sugar House neighborhood. A caller claimed a black woman was working there under false identity, possibly undocumented. Suspicious behavior behind the counter. No specifics, no evidence, just vague accusations that should have been investigated properly before any action was taken. But Oliver didn't wait. He grabbed Deputy James Caldwell and headed straight to the pharmacy. Both men activated their body cameras at 2:47 as they stepped from the patrol vehicle into the brutal July heat. 98 degrees. The asphalt shimmered. Riverside Pharmacy occupied a modest storefront in a strip mall. Large windows displayed community health posters. Inside, the air conditioning provided relief. Several customers browsed the aisles. 2 people waited at the prescription pickup window. Behind the elevated counter stood Dr. Esther Richmond, white pharmacist, coat pressed and professional, name tag clearly visible. She was counseling an elderly man about medication interactions, her voice calm and knowledgeable. The pharmacy's security system recorded from 4 angles. Cameras installed 18 months earlier after a robbery, all with audio, all time-stamped, all capturing what was about to unfold. Oliver pushed through the glass door. The bell chimed softly. His hand rested on his belt, posture radiating authority. He walked directly toward the pharmacy counter, interrupting Dr. Richmond mid-sentence with a loud command that cut through the quiet store. The demand for immigration papers hung in the air. Dr. Richmond finished her sentence to the elderly patient, handed him his medication with a professional smile. Only then did she turn to face Oliver, her expression shifting from professional courtesy to confusion to dawning realization. She identified herself as a licensed pharmacist who worked at the location. Oliver stepped closer. His body camera recorded his perspective as he approached, the framed credentials on the wall behind Dr. Richmond clearly visible. Pharmacy license showing her name, license number, the State of Utah Board of Pharmacy seal, Doctor of Pharmacy degree from the University of Utah, and something else, a law degree, Georgetown University Law Center. Oliver demanded identification and work authorization papers, citing a report about someone at the location working under false identity. Dr. Richmond gestured to the credentials behind her. The afternoon light streaming through the windows illuminated them perfectly. Everything was there. Everything was legitimate. Oliver dismissed the credentials with a wave of his hand, insisting they didn't verify immigration status. He demanded government-issued identification and proof of citizenship. Now. Dr. Richmond's hands rested on the counter. Her voice remained steady but took on an edge of steel. She stated she was an American citizen born at LDS Hospital in Salt Lake City and had no obligation to prove citizenship without probable cause. She asked what specific crime she was being accused of committing. Oliver's face flushed visibly. The color change was captured on Deputy Caldwell's camera from the side angle. He insisted this was routine verification based on a complaint, and if she had nothing to hide, she should have no problem showing papers. Papers. Dr. Richmond repeated the word slowly, let it hang in the air with all its historical weight. She then cited the Fourth Amendment protection against unreasonable seizures, explaining that unless Oliver could articulate a specific crime he suspected her of committing, he had no legal authority to demand her identification. Behind Oliver, Deputy Caldwell shifted uncomfortably. He recognized the constitutional issue immediately, had sat through enough training to know that demanding identification without reasonable suspicion violated the Fourth Amendment, but Caldwell remained silent, unwilling to contradict his partner in front of civilians. Oliver leaned against the counter aggressively, insisting he was trying to be reasonable. A complaint had been filed. She could cooperate and show identification, or they could do this the hard way. Dr. Richmond's voice rose slightly, the professional composure cracking. She stated clearly that what Oliver was doing constituted racial profiling, that he had walked into her workplace and demanded papers without probable cause, without reasonable suspicion, without legal justification, that the only thing he was basing this on was the color of her skin. The pharmacy's security cameras captured the confrontation from multiple angles. Wide shots showing the entire store layout, customers frozen mid-browse, the young cashier's eyes wide with shock, the overhead camera providing a bird's-eye view of Oliver's aggressive posture and Dr. Richmond's defensive stance. Near the vitamin aisle, a customer pulled out her phone, began recording, started live streaming. The viewer count began climbing, 47 people watching, then 93, then 156. Oliver noticed the security cameras, tilted his head up toward the ceiling-mounted devices, but he didn't stop. Dr. Richmond gestured toward the cameras, noting that everything was being recorded. His body cameras, her workplace security system, the entire interaction documented. What the cameras were recording was Oliver disrupting her business based on nothing but an anonymous complaint and his own biases. Oliver straightened. His shadow fell across the counter in the bright afternoon light. Final warning. Show identification and proof of citizenship or face detention. Dr. Richmond gripped the counter edge. Detained for what crime? What reasonable suspicion existed? She stated clearly that detaining someone without reasonable suspicion was basic Fourth Amendment law. Oliver's face went red. He declared she was obstructing an investigation. Dr. Richmond responded immediately. Obstructing what investigation? There was no investigation. An anonymous complaint with no specifics didn't create probable cause or reasonable suspicion. What Oliver was doing was a pretextual stop, unconstitutional when based solely on race. Oliver moved toward the gate leading behind the pharmacy counter. Both body cameras and all 4 CCTV cameras captured the movement from different perspectives. Dr. Richmond moved to block the gate, stating it was a restricted area. Only licensed pharmacy personnel were allowed. Oliver had no warrant, no exigent circumstances, no consent. He was violating multiple laws. Oliver reached for the gate latch. Doctor. Richmond placed her hand on it from the other side, holding it closed. She stated clearly for the cameras that she was not resisting or obstructing. She was exercising her Fourth Amendment right to be free from unreasonable searches and seizures. Oliver needed to leave or get a supervisor who understood constitutional law. Oliver pulled out his handcuffs. The metallic rattle was picked up perfectly on both body camera microphones and the pharmacy's audio system. The announcement of arrest. Dr. Richmond's response was immediate and captured on all cameras. Arrested for what? For asserting constitutional rights? For being black in her own workplace? For refusing an unlawful order? Oliver forced the gate open, using his weight against Dr. Richmond's resistance. She stumbled backward, hands coming up defensively. All cameras captured the sequence from multiple angles. The charges stated obstruction and failure to provide identification. Dr. Richmond's voice shook with fury and fear. She declared the arrest illegal, stated she was a United States citizen born in Salt Lake City. Her parents were born there. Oliver had no right. Oliver spun her around, pulled her arms behind her back. The handcuffs snapped closed with metallic finality. The sound echoed through the silent pharmacy. Customers stood frozen. The young cashier began crying. The woman at the prescription pickup window backed away, hand over mouth. The customer's live stream viewer count climbed. 487 watching live, then 832, then 1,200. Oliver ordered Deputy Caldwell to check her purse for identification. Caldwell hesitated. His camera recorded his reluctance. His voice came out quiet, uncertain, noting they lacked consent or a warrant. Oliver insisted that, as she was under arrest, they had the right to search her belongings incident to arrest. Caldwell's camera recorded him walking slowly behind the counter, picking up the purse with obvious reluctance, opening it. What he found would prove everything Dr. Richmond had said was true. Deputy Caldwell's hands moved through the purse with mechanical precision. Wallet, car keys, a stethoscope, prescription pads bearing Dr. Richmond's name and DEA number. Nothing suspicious. Nothing illegal. He opened the wallet. His camera captured the contents in perfect clarity. Utah driver's license, Esther Marie Richmond, Salt Lake City, Utah. Date of birth, June 22nd, 1985. A United States passport card showing the same information, the gold eagle emblem, unmistakable. Social Security card, DEA registration card showing authorization to prescribe controlled substances. Then, the items that changed everything. Georgetown University Law Center alumni card, current, valid, and beneath it, an identification badge. Federal court clerk, United States District Court for the District of Utah, expired but present. A Salt Lake City Health Advisory Board member identification card. Caldwell's voice came out quiet, almost a whisper, but the microphones picked it up perfectly. The dawning horror as he reported finding a Utah driver's license, passport card, and law degree from Georgetown. She had been a federal court clerk. Sheriff Oliver's grip on Dr. Richmond's arm tightened visibly on his body camera. For a moment, doubt flickered across his face, captured in profile on Caldwell's camera. He had just arrested an American citizen with a law degree who had no legal obligation to show papers. But Oliver didn't back down. His voice came out defensive, hard, processor anyway. She obstructed the investigation. Dr. Richmond was walked through the pharmacy in handcuffs, past staring customers, past the young cashier whose tears had become sobs. The entrance camera recorded them exiting at 3:04, 17 minutes after Oliver had walked through the door. The July heat hit them like a physical force. Oliver opened the back door of the patrol car and pushed Dr. Richmond into the seat with excessive force. She sat behind the metal grate, sweat already forming in the inadequately cooled vehicle. Dr. Richmond took a deep breath, composed herself with visible effort. She looked directly at Oliver's body camera lens and delivered a statement that would become Exhibit A in the federal lawsuit to follow. She identified herself by full name, licensed pharmacist and United States citizen, born at LDS Hospital in Salt Lake City on June 22, 1985. She recited her lineage. Mother Dr. Grace Richmond, retired University of Utah professor. Grandmother Dorothy Richmond, one of the first black teachers in Utah public schools. Great-great-grandfather Elijah Richmond, who helped build the Transcontinental Railroad through Utah in 1869, 5 generations in the state since 1878. She detailed her credentials. Juris Doctor from Georgetown University Law Center, federal clerkship with Judge Patricia Sanderson from 2009 to 2011. Doctor of Pharmacy degree from University of Utah, service on the Salt Lake City Health Advisory Board, never arrested before, never committed a crime. She stated clearly that Sheriff David Oliver, badge number 1847, had entered her workplace and demanded citizenship papers without probable cause or reasonable suspicion. When she cited the Fourth Amendment and refused his unlawful order, he arrested her. This was racial profiling, a violation of constitutional rights. What happens when Black Americans are treated as suspicious simply for existing in their own country? Every word captured in perfect clarity. Time-stamped, geotagged. Caldwell climbed into the passenger seat. His camera recorded Oliver's profile as he sat staring straight ahead, jaw working. Caldwell's voice came out barely above a whisper, but the microphones picked it up, stating, "This was bad." She was right. They didn't have reasonable suspicion. The stop was unconstitutional. She had a law degree, had clerked for a federal judge, cited case law by name, and they arrested her for asserting her rights. Oliver's response was terse, drive. The 30-minute journey through afternoon traffic, both body cameras recording, dashboard clock advancing, 3:12, 3:28, 3:41. Caldwell's camera occasionally panned back to check on Dr. Richmond. She sat in silence, face turned toward window, sweat soaking through her white coat. Her lips moved silently. Caldwell's camera captured her reciting case law to herself, preparing. Meanwhile, back at Riverside Pharmacy, the customer's live stream had exploded. 3,200 concurrent viewers and climbing. Comments flooding in. Outrage, shock, disbelief. Someone screen recorded and uploaded to Twitter with hashtag Justice for Dr. Richmond within 40 minutes, trending locally in Utah. Local news stations monitoring social media assigned reporters immediately. The pharmacy owner, Thomas Weaver, arrived and reviewed security footage with growing horror. He immediately contacted his attorney and began copying all footage to secure drives. Multiple backups, cloud storage. He posted a statement on social media defending Dr. Richmond. The post was shared thousands of times within minutes. The video of Dr. Richmond's arrest spread across the country, thousands watching a respected pharmacist handcuffed in her own workplace for refusing an illegal order. What would viewers have done in her position? Shown identification to avoid arrest? Or stood ground like Dr. Richmond? The call to action embedded naturally in the narrative flow. Share this video with someone who needs to see it. At the county sheriff's office, they processed Dr. Richmond for obstruction of justice and failure to provide identification. The booking officer's skepticism was immediate and visible. Questioning the arrest of a pharmacist for not showing identification at her place of work where her license was displayed on the wall. Oliver's defensive response. She obstructed an investigation. The booking officer's flat response. An anonymous complaint with no specifics didn't create reasonable suspicion. They'd been sued over this before, multiple times. His question to Caldwell, direct and pointed. This was going to be a problem, wasn't it? Caldwell's quiet acknowledgement. He knew. They processed Dr. Richmond anyway. Fingerprints, photographs, mugshot that would later be plastered across news websites. Her pharmacy license number run through databases showing spotless record. 12 years of service. Her name run through criminal databases showing 0 arrests, 0 warrants, 0 anything. She was exactly who she said she was. Dr. Richmond was placed in a holding cell. White coat, wrinkled, sweat-stained, but shoulders straight. She didn't look back at Oliver, just walked with dignity, maintained despite everything. 6 hours before release on her own recognizance. The charges, obstruction of justice and failure to provide identification during a lawful investigation. Her arrest, now public record. Mugshot entered into the system, professional reputation potentially damaged. But as Dr. Richmond sat in that holding cell, she wasn't defeated. She was planning. 2 years at Georgetown Law, studying constitutional rights. Federal clerkship, learning how the system worked from inside. She knew exactly what Sheriff Oliver had done, and she knew exactly what she was going to do about it. Outside, the live stream had reached 47,000 views. Justice for Dr. Richmond trending nationally. News vans heading to both pharmacy and sheriff's office. And in her holding cell, Dr. Richmond closed her eyes and waited, not as victim, but as someone preparing for war. 5 days after release, Dr. Richmond walked into the American Civil Liberties Union of Utah offices, downtown Salt Lake City, 20th floor. She met with David Ramos, senior civil rights attorney with 20 years of constitutional litigation experience. Ramos listened with growing anger. When Dr. Richmond finished, afternoon sun created geometric patterns through office blinds. The legal analysis was immediate. Dr. Richmond had asserted her rights, and Oliver arrested her for it. Retaliation, deprivation of rights under color of law. Given this happened because of her race, also racial discrimination and selective enforcement. Ramos requested body camera footage under Utah's Government Records Access and Management Act, contacted Riverside Pharmacy owner Thomas Weaver for complete CCTV footage. Weaver provided everything immediately. All 4 camera angles, complete audio, timestamp data, plus doctor. Richmond's personnel file showing spotless record, community involvement, awards including Outstanding Community Pharmacist Award, received 2 weeks before her arrest. 3 weeks later, all footage arrived. Ramos watched every second. Both officers' complete body camera recordings, all 4 security camera angles, the customer's live stream video preserved before it could be removed. The footage was devastating. CCTV provided perspectives body cameras couldn't capture, wide angles showing entire store layout, customer reactions, overhead views of Oliver's aggressive entry, unobstructed audio capturing every word, the customer's live stream providing real-time public reaction visible in comments. Combined footage showed Dr. Richmond calmly citing Fourth Amendment, explaining why Oliver's demand was unlawful, offering to have him speak with supervisor if he had legitimate concerns. Showed Oliver's aggressive escalation, racial profiling, unlawful entry, retaliatory arrest, showed Caldwell's clear reluctance, quiet admission they lacked reasonable suspicion, showed Dr. Richmond's powerful statement in patrol car, her recitation of 5-generation family history, her credentials, her dignity maintained despite everything. Within 6 weeks, criminal charges dropped. County prosecutor reviewed all footage, consulted Civil Rights Division, dismissal memo scathing, defendant correctly cited Fourth Amendment rights. Investigating officer had no reasonable suspicion. Defendant had no legal obligation to provide identification. Refusal was lawful. Multiple camera angles confirmed defendant never physically resisted or obstructed. Subsequent arrest appeared retaliatory and potentially motivated by racial bias. All charges dismissed. Matter referred to internal affairs. But dismissal wasn't enough. Ramos filed federal civil rights lawsuit. Dr. Esther Richmond versus Salt Lake County, Sheriff David Oliver, and Deputy James Caldwell. Alleged Fourth Amendment violations, false arrest, malicious prosecution, unlawful seizure, retaliation for exercising constitutional rights, selective enforcement based on race, intentional infliction of emotional distress. County's initial response, insulting $150,000 settlement offer, barely enough to cover attorney fees. Ramos refused immediately. This case was going to trial. Body camera footage, security footage, Dr. Richmond's clear knowledge of law and assertion of rights on camera. This was about establishing that being black in America didn't mean forfeiting Fourth Amendment rights. During discovery, Ramos uncovered damning information. Oliver with Salt Lake County Sheriff's Office for 9 years, named in 8 civilian complaints alleging racial profiling and constitutional violations. None resulted in meaningful discipline beyond brief retraining. Supervisors praised his proactive policing. Ramos deposed Deputy Caldwell, visibly uncomfortable throughout. 3 days after deposition, Caldwell did something unprecedented. Resigned from sheriff's office and voluntarily provided sworn affidavit detailing Oliver's pattern of racial profiling. 23 other incidents Caldwell personally witnessed over 18 months. Stops of black and Latino individuals without reasonable suspicion. Demands for identification without legal justification. Aggressive tactics when people asserted rights. Investigators traced the anonymous tip. Phone records and IP addresses led to Rebecca Walsh, owner of competing pharmacy 3 miles away. Walsh's pharmacy losing business to Riverside. Doctor. Richmond's pharmacy had recently won contracts with 2 major retirement communities. Walsh filed false report out of business jealousy. She now faced criminal charges for filing false police report. Ramos discovered one more crucial detail. 2 weeks before arrest, Dr. Richmond received Outstanding Community Pharmacist Award from Salt Lake City Mayor. Mayor personally thanked her for service to underserved communities. Photographs showed Dr. Richmond shaking Mayor's hand. Community leader honored by city, then arrested as suspicious foreigner 14 days later. Mayor's office issued statements supporting Dr. Richmond when this became public. As case built toward trial, national attention intensified. Civil liberties organizations filed amicus briefs. National Pharmaceutical Association condemned the arrest. Utah's black community saw this as defining moment. Trial date set. 21 months after arrest, Ramos assembled overwhelming case. Video evidence from 5 sources, expert witnesses, pattern evidence, documentary proof. Salt Lake County offered higher settlements, $500,000, then $850,000. Dr. Richmond refused every offer. This wasn't about money, about accountability, about ensuring this never happened to anyone else. The case would go to trial. The Federal District Court of Utah courtroom packed every day. Civil liberties advocates, members of Salt Lake City's black community, pharmacy professionals, national media, jury of 12 Utahns from diverse backgrounds, including 2 former police officers and nephew of Utah Supreme Court Justice. Trial's opening day began with video evidence, body camera footage, and CCTV recordings on split screens, multiple angles simultaneously. Jury watched Oliver demand papers without preamble. Dr. Richmond's professional response, Fourth Amendment citation, clear explanation of why demand was unlawful. Oliver's escalation, physical entry, aggressive arrest. CCTV overhead views making Oliver's aggression unmistakable. Dr. Richmond's defensive posture clearly visible. Shock and fear on customers' faces. Caldwell's hesitation. Discovery of citizenship documents. Dr. Richmond's powerful statement in patrol car, dignity maintained despite handcuffs. When footage ended, silence. Pin drop, quiet. 3 jurors visibly crying, others looking angry, betrayed, shocked. Dr. Richmond testified 5 hours over 2 days. Background detailed with precision. Born LDS Hospital, raised Salt Lake City, Georgetown Law Center. Federal Clerkship Judge Patricia Sanderson, 2009 to 2011. Decision to pursue pharmacy to directly serve community. 12 years licensed pharmacist. Clean record, community service. She described humiliation. Arrested at work before customers and colleagues. Led away in handcuffs for asserting rights every American supposedly possessed. She presented historical documents. Great-great-grandfather Elijah Richmond's railroad employment records from 1869. Grandmother Dorothy's teaching certification from 1959, one of first black teachers in Utah public schools. Mother's University of Utah faculty photographs spanning 1982 to 2018. Family genealogy showing 5 generations since 1878. The documents created visual timeline, proof of deep roots, proof Dr. Richmond's family in Utah longer than most white families, including Oliver's family who arrived 1952. Professor William Berkowitz from University of Utah testified as expert witness, explained Fourth Amendment jurisprudence clearly. Supreme Court established in Terry v. Ohio that police may demand identification only with reasonable suspicion of criminal activity. Anonymous tip without specific articulable facts doesn't create reasonable suspicion. Oliver had no legal basis to demand identification. Dr. Richmond's refusal was lawful. Arrest was unconstitutional. Settled law. Any reasonable officer would know. Dr. Richmond explained it to him on camera. County defense, attempted qualified immunity argument. Oliver could have reasonably believed actions were lawful. Ramos destroyed defense methodically in closing. Dr. Richmond told Oliver he was violating Fourth Amendment. She explained why. Cited case law principles any first-year law student would understand. All documented on multiple cameras from multiple angles. He arrested her anyway, not because he believed he was right, but because angry that black woman dared tell him no, not reasonable mistake. Willful ignorance of constitutional rights. Exactly what qualified immunity doesn't protect. Jury deliberated 4 days, agonizing wait. Dr. Richmond surrounded by family, mother Dr. Grace Richmond, grandmother Dorothy, who traveled from Provo, grandmother who marched in civil rights protests 1960s, arrested twice for sit-ins, colleagues, activists who saw this as test of Fourth Amendment for Black Americans. When verdict came back, courtroom filled within minutes. Jury foreman stood. Thomas Hendricks, retired police officer, 67 years old. Words came clear and firm. Liable on all counts. Room erupted, but foreman wasn't finished. Unprecedented statement. Jury wanted on record that Dr. Richmond's conduct was exemplary throughout incident. Sheriff Oliver's actions were disgrace to law enforcement in violation of everything Constitution stands for. Dr. Richmond collapsed into Ramos's arms, sobbing with relief and vindication. Grandmother raised fist in silent salute, tears streaming, generational justice. 1960s protests to 2024 courtroom victory. Damages phase lasted 2 weeks. Testimony about panic attacks, fear of police, inability to work for months. Customers who stopped coming to Riverside Pharmacy. Pharmacy owner testifying about business lost. Reputation damaged. Psychiatrist explaining particular trauma Black professionals experience when credentials mean nothing against racial bias. Economist calculating lost wages, damaged career trajectory, therapy costs, legal defense. Damages announcement shook courtroom. $4.2 million in compensatory damages for lost wages, emotional distress, reputational harm, constitutional violations. $8.7 million in punitive damages calculated to punish Salt Lake County for 12 years of ignored racial profiling complaints against Oliver, total $12.9 million. Largest civil rights verdict in Utah history. Courtroom exploded, news cameras captured everything, national headlines within an hour. Sheriff Oliver terminated within 2 hours. County Sheriff's Office announced chief deputy resignation. FBI opened formal civil rights investigation. Utah State Legislature announced emergency hearings on law enforcement accountability. 3 other Oliver victims came forward with attorneys, armed with Caldwell's affidavit. Salt Lake County Sheriff's Office announced sweeping reforms under Department of Justice and state legislature pressure, mandatory Fourth Amendment training. New policies prohibiting demands for identification without articulable reasonable suspicion. Body camera review protocols. Independent monitor. Quarterly public reporting on stops with demographic data. Community Oversight Board. Dr. Richmond used portion of settlement to establish Fourth Amendment Defense Fund, free legal representation for others subjected to unlawful demands for identification. Partnership with ACLU Utah for Know Your Rights programs. She became national voice on racial profiling, testified before congressional subcommittee, spoke at law schools, visited police academies, shared her story. Combined body camera, CCTV, and live stream footage became required viewing in police academies nationwide. Stark lesson in what happens when officers let racial bias override constitutional law. 6 months after verdict, Dr. Richmond returned to work at Riverside Pharmacy. Customers greeted her with flowers, cards, gratitude. She was same professional pharmacist she'd always been, but now also symbol. Reminder that knowledge is power, that standing up for rights matters, that justice, though delayed, can prevail. Her pharmacy walls displayed additional frame, news clipping of verdict with headline Utah Pharmacist Wins Historic $12.9 million Civil Rights Victory, next to law degree, pharmacy degree, community service awards, visual representation of women who refused to be invisible, who used voice and knowledge to create change. In Salt Lake City, Dr. Esther Richmond's case became landmark proof. Fourth Amendment means something. Racial profiling has consequences. Generational roots and professional credentials deserve respect. Sometimes most important thing to say to unlawful power is simply, no. I know my rights. If you believe all Americans deserve Fourth Amendment protection regardless of race, that demanding papers without cause is unconstitutional, and that standing up for your rights should be celebrated, not punished, subscribe and turn on notifications. Tomorrow we have another story of someone who looked powerless but possessed knowledge and courage to change everything. Because truth, recorded on cameras and vindicated in court, reminds us that we the people grant power to government, not the other way around. Dr. Richmond behind pharmacy counter, white coat crisp, name tag visible, helping customer with quiet dignity and expertise, pharmacist, lawyer, fifth generation Utah, civil rights champion.
If you like this video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next story. Share this video with someone who would appreciate it, and let's keep building this community together. And before you go, drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what stood out to you the most. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next.
Transparency is an ongoing commitment, and education provides your greatest safeguard. Thank you for watching and empowering a truthful world.